This week, Congress is thinking about a number of bills that seek to address the problems with big tech. We recently heard from Rogan O'Handley that he is engaged presently in a suit against Twitter and the state of California in an effort to combat some of the suppression issues Americans, and in particular conservative Americans, have encountered when it comes to speaking their minds on various online platforms controlled by the big tech industry heads. Representative Cathy McMorris-Rodgers of the Energy and Commerce Committee recently drew up a big tech accountability platform. It serves as one of the Republican-led efforts to combat big tech censorship and oligopoly. Joining me this morning to discuss, I'm pleased to bring in another member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Congressman Markwayne Mullin. Congressman, good morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me on, Sophia.
Happy to have you here. So talk to us a little bit about this thing that I just mentioned, this platform that Congressman McMorris-Rodgers has drawn up, and some of the bills that Congress is thinking about right now in terms of, as I said, combating big tech censorship.
Well, if you look at what Energy and Commerce is doing underneath the leadership of ranking member Cathy McMorris-Rodgers, what we're really looking at for is trying to increase the transparency with these companies, because what we have is these companies really, they run wild. They hide underneath Section 230, and then they argue the point that they're trying to take down hateful and vulgar speech. But there's a fine line between hateful and vulgar speech and speech that you just don't agree with because it doesn't fit your political narrative. And we've seen that these platforms are really leaning hard to the left, and they suppress actually conservative point of views or conservative ideas. At the same time, Congress is allowing them to hide behind that underneath Section 230. And so what we're trying to do is really increase meaningful transportation, enhance the accountability of these companies that try to hide underneath Section 230. And we're pushing for consistency, meaning that they've got to consistently stay underneath the same platform, the same argument that's consistent with Republicans and Democrats when they're trying to decide if they're going to pull down certain types of speech, not just political speech that they don't agree with.
So, Congressman, legislatively, what is the plan to do this? Because, you know, over the past year or so, maybe 18 months, we've seen a number of different congressional and Senate committees bring in some of these industry heads. And it seems that legislatively, the process has on numerous occasions stalled out. So really, what is the ground plan here?
Well, really, if you look at it, Republicans and Democrats are somewhat on the same side of this, and the idea is how far are we wanting to go with it, and I think that's a really fine line, because on the one side, on the Republican side, we're not really wanting to overregulate businesses. That's not what we want to do. Democrats pick winners and losers through regulations. We Republicans, we want to create a free market and let entrepreneurs thrive. But actually, at the same time, we have to make sure that they're playing fair by the rules too. And the rules underneath Section 230 are very clear. Section 230 is designed to be a public square where you can post whatever you want, and the company isn't held liable for what is posted there. And the Democrats, they're moving towards Section 230 because they think that the platforms allow too much stuff when it comes to conservatives, and they blame everything on January 6th. And then we think that that the big companies underneath Section 230 picks what political speech they will allow and which political speech they don't. But we both agree that Section 230 is the problem that they are hiding behind. And I think at the crutch of this, we have to make sure we pull down Section 230 from them and allow them to operate the way they want to underneath their same platform that they choose to, but no longer allow them to be covered underneath Section 230. And I think President Trump was very clear about that too. That's why he was so adamant about removing Section 230. And the Energy and Commerce is looking at this different than even Judiciary, because Judiciary, they're looking at it from a different perspective, from different bills. Like they have H.R. 3816, which I call the Amazon bill, because Amazon is really big about using and manipulating the platform to have people advertise their products. But once their products become popular, they start suppressing that product and bring their own like product above theirs. And so when you search Amazon, you'll start grabbing it. That kind of competition also has to be suppressed. We can't allow that to happen, because either you're going to allow a free market to be put out there or you're not. And really, Then you got to look into, I think it's HR 3843, if I'm remembering correctly. Let me look over here. Yeah, 3843. And it allows the Department of Justice and the Trade Commission to go after these companies that are doing this, and we see that they're creating a monopoly into the space that they operate, and we want to have the DOJ and the Trade Commission be able to have all the teeth and the resources they need to be able to go after these bad actors.
Right. So, I mean, it seems like there are a range of different issues here that different, as you say, committees in the House are addressing with different types of legislation. But you also mentioned that Democrats and Republicans are approaching the issue from slightly different vantage points and with slightly different motivations. Do you think that this is sort of an issue that can have policy implementation that operates based on bell curve theory? Do you think that there is room to come together, or will Democrats and Republicans get caught up in the hustle here and just have viewpoints that are too divergent to get the legislation passed in a bipartisan manner?
Sophia, I think this is kind of unique because we are approaching it from totally different perspectives. But the common denominator is there's only one way to fix it. And so I believe that if we can keep our differences, which are fine, until we get to the really end of it, and then hold our differences apart, we can probably resolve both issues in a bipartisan manner. But we're trying to resolve two different type of issues. So I really do believe in the energy and commerce, which we haven't had a whole lot that we have been in step with the Democrats at all, and I believe in this case we actually have a lot of common areas. We're seeing 4 bills coming out of judiciary right now that have bipartisan support. So yes, I do believe that this is an area that Republicans and Democrats, even though we're coming at from different perspectives, we can still come together and hold big tech accountable. Because what we try to tell them is that if they can do it to us, they can also do it to you. They can suppress our point of view. At one point, that's going to curve back, and that's history says this, and it's going to curve back, and then you're going to be at the tip of the spear. And I think they see that too. But at the end of the day, we've allowed big tech to get so big and so powerful that there's some lawmakers that's afraid of them, and that's a scary place to be too, because not only are they covering free speech, now they're starting to direct government just because from a fear perspective.
Yeah.